All right, let's just get right into it. Think about that device in your pocket. The one you pretty much can't live without. Well, it's way more than just a phone. It's actually one of the most powerful surveillance tools ever created. So today, we're going to break down exactly how it spies on you, why it's even legal, and what that all means for your privacy.
And to really understand what's at stake here, this quote from Edward Snowden just hits the nail on the head. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly profound. See, here's the thing. Our phones are always with us, right? So a record of your phone's movements, well, that's a record of your movements. It maps out your life, where you live, where you work, all your little habits. It basically creates a digital fingerprint of who you are. So how does that fingerprint even get made?
Well, it all starts with something you might not know. Your phone basically has a double identity. You see, for it to work on any cell network anywhere on the planet, it has to be totally unique. And that uniqueness comes down to two really important identifiers. And here they are, the IMAIS and the IMSI. The easiest way to think about them is like your phone's own personal name and its social security number. They are one of a kind, globally unique. That means no other phone on the entire planet has the same ones. Okay, so here's how they work together, and it's actually pretty clever. The IMEI, think of that as being permanently burned into the phone's hardware. You can't change it, ever. It identifies the physical device for its entire life. Now, the IMSI is different. That one lives on your little SIM card. It's what's tied to your account and your phone number. So here's the kicker. Even if you pop out your SIM card and put in a new one to get a totally new number, the cell network still knows it's the same exact phone making the call. Why? Because that permanent IMEI number never, ever changes. So how does all this technical stuff turn into tracking your location? It's actually a super simple three-step process. And get this, it's happening all the time, whether you're on a call or your phone is just sitting in your pocket. First, your phone is constantly broadcasting, kind of like it's shouting out its IMEI and IMSI, looking for the nearest cell tower. Then, whichever tower has the strongest signal grabs onto it. And right at that moment, boom, the tower company creates a permanent record. It logs that this phone with this account was connected to this specific tower at this exact time. And just like that, another dot is placed on the map of your life. Okay, so that's the tech side of things. But as this incredibly detailed permanent log of your every move gets bigger and bigger, you got to start wondering, wait a minute, how is this even legal? So let's get into the law that allows all of this to happen.
I mean, this is the question on everyone's mind, right? Surely someone would need a warrant to track you like this. It just seems like common sense. But believe it or not, that's not always how it works.
And this is where another Snowden quote really gets to the heart of the matter. The real scandal isn't that they're breaking the law. The scandal is that they don't have to. This isn't happening in some dark corner, against the rules. It's all happening right out in the open, using a legal framework that was put in place decades before anyone even dreamed of a smartphone. So what is this legal magic trick? It's called the third-party doctrine, and the basic idea is this. If you voluntarily share your information with a third party, like, say, your phone company, you essentially lose your right to privacy over that information. The logic is, by using their service, your phone automatically connects to their towers, so you're giving them your location data. And once you've shared it, it's not just yours anymore, it's theirs too.
And you will not believe where this all started. We have to go back to the 1970s. There was this guy making creepy, harassing phone calls to a woman. The police, without a warrant, just went to the phone company and asked for a list of all the numbers he'd dialed from his landline. The whole thing went all the way to the Supreme Court. And in 1979, the court ruled that because he voluntarily gave those numbers to the phone company just by dialing them, he had no expectation of privacy. So a case about a crank caller in the 70s set the legal precedent that is now used to justify collecting this massive ocean of digital data about all of us every single day. And look, while that specific court case was an American one, the idea of mass surveillance, well, that's a worldwide thing. This is absolutely a global phenomenon. Yeah, this really is an issue that doesn't care about borders. And you've got two major players in the game. You've got governments who do it to monitor citizens, usually saying it's for national security. And then you have corporations who are collecting all this data for, very powerful business reasons. And the scale we're talking about here can be absolutely mind-blowing. Just look at this. A 2019 report found that of the 10 most heavily surveilled cities on Earth, a whopping 8 of them are in China.
It's a country known for having what many call the largest and most advanced surveillance system in the world. And it's not just about cameras. Back in 2013, a report from Reporters Without Borders actually named several state enemies of the internet. These are basically countries where online surveillance is super active and intrusive. We're talking about everything from Iran using advanced tools to monitor what people do online, to a place like Vietnam where the internet companies themselves are basically used as tools of state control. So, okay, we've talked about the tech, the weird old laws, and the fact that this is happening all over the world. It really brings us to a huge question. With everything being so connected all the time, is real privacy even possible anymore?
You know, Edward Snowden floated this really simple, powerful idea. What if you had a button on your phone? A button that just said, do what I want you to do, but don't spy on me while you do it. It's such a simple concept, right? It's all about giving the control right back to the person holding the phone. So why doesn't this button exist? Well, when you ask tech companies, they say a couple things. They say it could be a security risk. They also claim that all the stuff happening in the background is just way too complicated for a normal person to understand or manage. But Snowden has a great comeback for that. He argues that their excuse actually confesses the real problem. If it's too complex for us to understand, then maybe, just maybe, the system is broken and it's what needs to be made simpler. And that really leaves us with one last, and maybe the most important question of all. Let's just say this button could exist. Would the big tech companies, the ones whose entire business models are built on collecting and selling all that data you're voluntarily sharing, would they even let you press it? That right there is the multi-billion-dollar question at the very center of this whole debate.